What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best TEMPEST FLURRY Mercenary build in Path of Exile 2. If you're looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video's description or the pinned comment. So this is an endgame build that utilizes the power of the attribute stacking to increase its performance. Our main goal is to stack as much strength, dexterity and intelligence as possible, to then scale it with our unique items such as the Pillar of the God and the Hand of Wisdom and the Action. One of the best things about our setup is that all it needs to function at the start is the Pillar of the Caged God, which is pretty affordable on a budget, but then later on we can scale it incredibly high with each unique item and massive power upgrades and much more. Our main playstyle will revolve around using the TEMPEST FLURRY in the combination with the Charged Staff that can hit multiple times and create lightning shockwaves. If you want to zoom through the maps insanely fast while destroying anything and everyone that crosses your path, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the Mercenary, and our Ascendancy is the Gambling Legionnaire. Then for the first skill we have the TEMPEST FLURRY with the support gems such as the Martial Tempo, Inspiration, Glaciation and the Ice Bite. Then second we get the Charged Staff with the Primal Armament, Lightning Infusion, Overcharge and the Concentrated Effect. Then next we got the Tempest Belt with the Concentrated Effect, Overabundance, Elemental Focus and the Close Combat. Next we have the Wind Dancer with the Blind, Maim and the Pin. Next up we have the Herald of the Ice with Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion, Primal Armament and the Elemental Focus. Next we got the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. And finally, for the last one we are using the Glacial Cascade with no support gems. Most of the setup is structured around using the Tempest Fury and the Charged Staff to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Also, at this point I would usually show you a leveling build, but this time our particular setup is specifically meant for only endgame, because it will only start working when we get the quarterstaff called the Pillar of the Caged God. So until that point I would recommend to use my cheap gas grenade build, which link you can find in the description and on this website. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this armor and evasion node. Then go like this while also grabbing the Battle Hardened and the Relentless. Then from here keep on moving while also on our way getting these two, and also the beef. Then afterwards we go like this, and then here at the end we wanna go up top and get this blood magic. We want to use this specific node because scaling mana and handling mana cost is expensive, while maintaining very high tankiness. So this is a great keystone to solve any potential mana problem. Then after this, we now want to circle back and this time go to the bottom and get this brute strength. And then as you can see from here, the whole path pretty much just goes in a straight line, so just follow it while also grabbing everything that you can see right here. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't need to get these two, so the Lightning Rod and the Flash Storm, if you still haven't equipped the Hands of the Wisdom and Action. And then from here, the most important nodes and the ones we want to get is the Storm and the River, as they increase our evasion rating while also letting the freeze to build up faster for more consistent explosions with the Herald of the Ice. And on top of this, it also makes keeping up our Charged Staff much easier, by giving it an extra duration when consuming a single power charge, since it counts as using an extra charge. And then finally, the last most important part is the Resonance, as it is one of the core nodes of our build. It will convert the frenzy charges gained from the Combat Frenzy into the power charges, which will allow us to cast our insane Charged Staff. Then also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more strength, because of the Pillar of the Caged God, which will give us increased weapon damage for every 5 strength. So if you want to do insane amount of damage, then we want to stack it as much as possible. And then finally we also got Jewels, which are very important for this build. And the top 4 best options to go for is the gain rage on every hit, then recover life on kill, then increased freeze buildup and finally increased evasion. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to get the adaptive capability, then second get the enhanced effectiveness. Because of how many attributes we will stack, this node will grant us a massive amount of life early on. With about 500 strength, this node will result in more than 1000 extra life. Then for the third one we want to get the integrated efficiency. And then finally for the last one we get the gem studded, which is another powerful node. If we don't get this one, then our build will run out of the effective support gems. So we want to get it to not only increase our DPS, but also to create the bigger explosions by using the Herald of the Ice. So feel free to use the exact same path as we have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next up we have our Atlas passives. So when we start we want to first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, until we get this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we want to circle back to the middle, and this time go up top, until we get to the second keystone called the Corrupted Infusion. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Pillar of the Cage God. This is relatively cheap and common item, however in the early game we want to use the Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune to increase its flat damage output even more. On top of this, if you get lucky enough, then you can also find this quarterstaff with 3 sockets. Then for the helmet we have the 3 dragons. And after you get the Hands of the Wisdom in action, then this is the third priority that you should get, as it is mandatory to ensure that you are freezing enemies for a massive Herald of the Ice explosion. Then for the chest we have the Warrior Invictus. This is another powerful item, but this time not mandatory whatsoever, so use this one or anything similar. And for stats we want to focus on increased evasion, more to strength, dexterity and intelligence, and more resistances like fire, cold, lightning and chaos. Then for the belt we have the double belt with increased charm charges. And for bonus stats we want max life, more to strength and chaos and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Hand of the Wisdom in action. This should be the second item that you prioritize after our weapon, as it is another core part of our build, and will enable us to stack our attributes and increase DPS by a massive amount. Then for the boots we're using the advanced hunting shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max life, more to dexterity and fire and cold resistance. Then for first and second ring we got the same one called the Prismatic Ring, with more to all elemental resistances. And for more we want adds fire or cold damage to attacks, and more strength, dexterity and intelligence. And then finally for the amulet we have Amber Amulet with strength. And for more we want more to all attributes, more to strength and intelligence. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best setup in the endgame, and if you only can afford few things, then I would recommend to prioritize the weapon, then the gloves and finally the headpiece. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear will be stocked with resistant runes. However, once your elemental resistances have been capped and resistant runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase your maximum life with body runes or consider socketing a soul core. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town each time you level up, as vendors can change their offerings based on your level, so this is the best way to find upgrades. And then after level 68, you just want to keep continuing repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth tutorial, check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Taving Charm for when I become frozen. Then second, get the Stone Charm for stuns. And then finally, for the last one, get the Amethyst Charm for chaos damage. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting. So feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So for maps and AoV farming, we simply want to spam our Tempest Flurry while making sure to maintain the charge staff for as long as possible. However, then for single targets and boss fights, we want to start by attacking with the Tempest Flurry to generate combo stacks. So then we use our Tempest belt and then continue attacking with the Tempest Flurry. This combo will freeze the build and generate a power charge, so then afterwards we use our power charge by casting the charge staff. So then, once the charge staff is active, we want to continue attacking the target with the Tempest Fury, and replace the Tempest Bell whenever it goes down. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 best mercenary builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.